بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحضور الكريم. First of all, I would like to tell you thank you very much. Actually, you're a great audience and you are very good listeners. So what I'm going to talk about today actually is very interesting. My name is Hisham Sakr. I'm the Director of Application Development and Integration and Project Management Office in Diyar United. Probably this is one of the longest titles. Today I'm going to talk about the e-government in the cloud era. I would like to go quickly through the agenda. Basically, I'm going to talk about the cloud, the cloud types in general, the enablers of the cloud, the challenges, benefits, offerings. I'm going to mention some facts. And also I'm going to touch base whether we in Kuwait are really ready for the cloud computing or not. Then I'm going to touch base on Diyar and some of the quick projects that we had done either in Kuwait or in the region. And after that, definitely there will be the open discussions and the questions and the answers. Well, okay, are we ready? Okay. The cloud actually have been a very interesting subject to me since I was young. And I used to ask myself, how much water is in a cloud? In this part of the world, we really like clouds. It's always related to something good, to rain, to prosper. And actually, this is the feeling of all the humans, and especially in this part of the world. Actually, clouds are always related to two meanings, basically. Al-khair, as we say it, okay? And on the other aspect, sometimes it might not be something very clear. So, you know, the expression of a cloud actually is commonly used in science to describe a large agglomeration of objects altogether. As we say it in Arabic, for بعض الأحيان ضبابي. So, if there are, you know, too many things are, you know, like with each other, you call them dababi or sahabi. And this is actually what's happening in the cloud concept in general. I remember in the old days, maybe 25 years back, in the field of IT, we used to see the diagram of the cloud for the X.25 network. In 94, early 94 actually, the cloud was actually representing the internet. So we used to draw the cloud to mention that there are too many things connected to each other, but it doesn't really matter how they are connected, okay? But the popularization of the term cloud was introduced in 2006 actually, when Amazon.com actually introduced the elastic compute cloud. And since that time, the term cloud has been widely used in the IT industry. So again, I will ask this question again. What is the cloud? The cloud actually is basically development of products. There were too many products in the recent years. There is too much development in the recent years. It's the aggregation of technologies. You know, you add things up. It's the evolution of minds. People think how to use this and how to use that. And one of the most important aspects, which is the human mind can do what we call the lateral thinking. So you think that way, you know, like sort of horizontal. So you think of what you can use from a specific domain in another domain. So all this together would lead to basically the cloud. The cloud is about sharing resources. The cloud is about economies of scale. So basically, several entities or organizations can share some resources, as we are going to discuss now. Of course, all my colleagues and the experts in the IT today and yesterday have been talking about the cloud. I'm gonna say how we can actually enter into the cloud as from a government perspective. Of course, also one of the important aspects of the cloud has the hype. There is marketing, too much marketing about the cloud. Okay, going to the cloud again, what is the cloud? There are public clouds, okay, as we know them. There are private/hybrid clouds, okay. Those are basically for either organizations or private sector, or even universities at a certain point of time, where actually they can share the resources with the public clouds, for the hybrid clouds in specific. So they have their own resources, applications in the university, and at the same time, they can actually have the emails of the students on the public cloud. So this is an example of the hybrid cloud. And there is actually a new concept. It's not new anymore. It's already there, it's established. The Singapore government has what we call a G cloud, a government cloud. And as you can see, the government cloud would definitely include e-services that are actually rendered to the cloud. Mobile devices can access the cloud, social networks, and so on and so forth. So basically, the government cloud is the enablement of sort of a private cloud to the public to host the government e-services across the country or the nation in general. This slide actually represents the, the current versus or the what used to be versus the future. Here we basically, this is the silos or the servers, the infrastructure of any cloud in any organization currently, probably in Kuwait. There are, like separate applications, separate tracks, separate servers, separate e-services hosted in every organization to serve their users, or as we would say, customers, citizens, of course. Versus what should be actually is the new world. So the new world actually is more cloudy, if I may say. Pools of shared services, computing power, and storage. And of course, we cannot forget the software or the services like service-oriented architecture and enterprise service bus and so on. If we move on to the enablers, what enables cloud and what helps in having a cloud? As my colleagues mentioned, data centers. There's been an evolution in data centers in the past years. And this is quite obvious in the processing power. Vendors provide humongous and very huge, actually, processing power on the servers. Massive storage devices. I remember very well when I first started, there is a server that has 1 giga of RAM. Now we don't measure by gigas anymore. I think teras and petabytes and so on and so forth. So massive storage devices is also a major player in this game. Networking, of course, the networking infrastructure, and the evolution also in disaster recovery concepts and business continuity, which actually sustains business and makes sure that business runs all the time. The evolution of communication highways in general. Just an example, the KIN, let's say, for example, is connecting all the government organizations in Kuwait. The virtualization also is a major enablement factor to the cloud, where actually it gives you lots of features and lots of benefits. So virtualization is one of the major components and one of the great enablers in the cloud. The evolution of mobility. And I'm going to discuss in some slides the mobility in Kuwait in specific. I'm going to show you numbers that you're going to really like about our community here. Also, one of the major enablers is the data, the big data and data analytics that have emerged in the recent years. Can you imagine the amount of information flowing from users using mobiles or other devices on the internet? You can collect a lot of data, but collecting data, is like getting some stones all together in one big bag. You'll never know what is precious and what's not. But big data and data analytics would definitely help you discover the vital and important information in such a collection of data. So collecting massive data and being able to analyze it is also have been a great enabler to the cloud recently. National IDs being smart IDs, this is also very important, because actually there are lots of applications that you can apply on a national ID, a smart card that you can use with the government or the e-government in general. And now the merge of the physical cards with the IT is really creating something very big in this era. The evolution of e-payment, banks also are going in a very aggressive direction towards e-payments and securing e-payments. GIS, Geographical Information Systems, and location-based services, all those are like enablements. Enterprise content management, we're going to discuss this in brief, where actually a citizen need to submit some documents or files, scan them, upload them to a specific e-service. Where all will this be archived? Where all this will be stored? How it will be stored? The size that it's taking, the retention period to keep such documents. All those are emerging actually from the ECM or the enterprise content management concepts in general. Citizen relationship management, what we call, what used to be customer relationship management, citizen relationship management, CRM, where actually you keep what we call a 360 degrees profile about the citizen, about the person. So you know exactly what were the services that he applied for, what payments did he pay, and so you can basically have a full history about that citizen, what were the issues that he had before, how were they resolved, in what time were they resolved. One of also the very important enablers that I've been working with in the past period are the United Nations programs. Actually, the United Nations are a very big enabler to the e-government among the world. And of course, because actually they are taking care of the e-government in general, and the concepts are evolving and developing, also cloud comes as a very important factor in that direction. Microsoft is a great enabler with the Surface, with the Office 365 and the mobile devices and so on and so forth. Does enablement come without challenges? No. Actually, there are too many challenges that you can ever think. And I can guarantee you they are not the only ones that you see on the screen right now. I just wanted to highlight some of them, and I'm sure that you as experts in the field of IT know that they are challenges, and probably you already have some plans to overcome them in your organizations. However, here I'm talking about from a nation-size point of view. Governance is a very important challenge. Actually, without governance, you cannot manage anything. So things like frameworks, support frameworks, development frameworks, security frameworks, whatever frameworks that the governing body has to apply is a major challenge. Of course, you can have this on a ministry level or an organization level or an authority level, but what we are talking about is like a complete matrix for the nation, for Kuwait as a country in general. Security, I believe my colleagues here touched base on security, which is a very serious challenge. We've seen countries attacked, we've seen organizations attacked, we've seen breaches, we've seen losses of data, losses of assets, and security cannot be ignored, cannot be even dealt with ease. No, actually it's a major challenge, it's a serious challenge, and this has to be within a complete framework for the country as a whole. Scalability, let me give you just an example about scalability. I remember actually when several events actually, let me just give you an example. When نتائج الثانوية العامة, when the general certificate results are announced, does anybody know if any site did manage to hold during this 9 million visits to the Ministry of Education site, actually it was like, you know, denial of service. Actually, the students, their parents, their relatives from around the world, they were hitting the site like you have never seen before. There are ways to overcome this, you know, like dividing the resources, or having several servers, or, you know, using the cloud, or using KGO to publish the results from them as well, or sending messages. So this is like a denial of service attack again. So scalability is a concern. Scalability is an issue. It's a challenge. It's a major challenge. You need to know in advance when this scalability issue might hit you, and you need to put a plan for that. At a certain point of time, we noticed that there is a very active, I would say, visits to one of the sites. Actually, we found out that there is a new law that was released recently, and there are fines. So people were checking the records whether they have those fines or not, traffic fines actually. And I believe most of us had done that to check the traffic fines that we have at a certain point of time or in a specific duration. All this affects the scalability of the e-government in general. Resources. Here I'm talking about human resources. Human resources are becoming really scarce, you know. So we need to make sure that there are development plans. There is, you know, like short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans for preparing resources to be able to cope with this major leap towards the cloud. Maintenance also is one of the major challenges, because to maintain big structures, it requires lots of planning, and it requires lots of resources, whatever those resources are. So also maintenance is a very important challenge. You need to have a complete maintenance plans and so on and so forth. And the last thing, I would say, I wouldn't say the last thing, but the last thing that I've put in my slide is the commitment. Because actually with big structures and big challenges, people tend to get loose, you know, like lose interest. So there has to be continued commitment to reach the goals that were set, the plans that were drawn, the initiatives that were put. So commitment is a very important factor, and it is a challenge. So it's not just about, you know, like inaugurating something or making a nice ceremony for something and then, you know, not paying attention to it. No, it's very important to continue on and have the commitment all over. Okay, what are the benefits? The first and the most important benefit in cloud computing in the government is the IT consolidation. So resources are consolidated all together. The value of resources actually is really bigger. The agency and the community will actually have greater results while lowering the cost, the overall investments done in the e-government domain. The enhancement of the information exchange, which is a very important topic actually. Right now, or actually the maturity model of the e-government in general goes through phases. So part of this actually, you know, like each entity would have its own e-services, so they are serving directly their end user or their customer. But the most important thing is that when entities, organizations, ministries, authorities start sharing information together. So basically this is a step forward to what we call compound or more complicated services, where more than one entity would share the same service. So basically you don't have to go to visit several locations. You can do the service on the portal or on the cloud. Also enhancing the information exchange between what we say G2C, which is government to citizen, where citizens will be able to upload their documents or upload whatever necessary, fill in whatever important information or documentation that are required to execute a service. So this actually enhances the information exchange between the government to government, or government to citizen. the virtual employee. The virtual employee is a very important employee actually. While we don't see him, but actually he is doing some work. And this promotes transparency, and which is something actually Kuwait is always after and have achieved a lot in the past years. One of the interesting points as well is what we call crowdsourcing, or in other words, the community feedback. You need to listen back, the voice of the community. So you hear back from the community, from the citizens, from the residents, what do you think of a specific service? If there is an issue in the street, let's say for example, a municipality can gather such information very easily. This is, like when you're driving on the 6th Ring Road and you find an accident, so you directly call 112. So this is basically you're getting the feedback from the crowd, from the public themselves. Exactly the same, the government entities need to listen to the citizen, okay, and need them to share their experience. It's just not, like a one-sided relationship. It's give and take, it's win-win. The citizen will win, the government will win. Globalization, actually, we all know that. This is already there because actually we can pay our traffic fines from even we are having, like a nice holiday in London or New York, whatever it is. Maintaining high service levels and key performance indicators also is one of the benefits, because actually the world will be like exposed. So we have to maintain those high standards and high levels of service and maintenance, service in specific. The last thing, again, in my slide, is basically the green technology. My colleagues have talked about that. I will not talk about it too much, but we all know the benefit of green technology, where actually we use less for more, we save resources, and so on and so forth. Okay, moving to the offerings. A regulatory body should provide sharing of computing resources, as we usually say, IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS, infrastructure as a service. It is, I would say, expected that the regulatory bodies would, get into an initiative where resources are consolidated and offered to entities, basically to consolidate the IT resources in general. Of course, enterprise service bus and service-oriented architecture has to be offered as well. So any organization or entity that has an e-service can directly connect into that business bus and follow the business logic and be able to get the benefit of this consolidated IT structure. Again, software as a service, where organization can share benefits from using a specific service, and platform as a service. I showed this slide before, but the difference here actually in this slide is that my point here is that actually the new world is getting more cloudy. So the services that were residing in a specific organization or on a specific track in a specific ministry or a regulatory body should be moved to the cloud to get the benefits of the cloud, where actually massive shared resources can be found and can be communicated and consolidated with great ease, and definitely benefit to the end user. The concept behind that actually is that the platform is becoming the cloud. So the transformation is taking place actually from group of servers, storage devices, scattered e-services, to a consolidated platform, which is the cloud, where everybody can access that cloud. Actually, that was, the vision where we want to be. And I'm gonna very quickly demonstrate and prove to you that actually this is the way forward, because actually history actually reflects future. Right here in this ballroom in 2008, now I'm gonna discuss about reality. On the 19th of October 2008, this site was launched, e.gov.kw, okay? And the facts are, when we launched the e.gov.kw, there were 114 content services and around 20 e-services, a total of 134 services at that time on the 19th of October 2008. Today, actually, we have 860. Actually, Kuwait
Mr. Hisham, you've got 5 minutes left.
Thank you. Today we have 860 content services. We have 179 e-services, a total of 1,039 services in the portal. Very quickly, I'll show you some very interesting graphs. I hope that I can finish them in 5 minutes. It shows you here that the number of users on that day or in the month of November in 2008 was 13,000 users. In October, because actually we're still in November, so we were not able to get the numbers for November. In October 2014, we had 387,000 users. Can you imagine the difference across the years? The page views as well. We had 73,000 pages in November 2008. In October 2014, we have 1,400,000 pages. The mobile as well. And this is very nice because actually I can see that the Kuwaiti people are actually adopting mobiles long time back. So Kuwait has been visiting the e.gov by mobile since actually the inauguration of that portal. But right now we have 651,000 mobile visits a month. Again, just to compare, this is where we were in 2008, and this is where we were in 2014. The last thing I would say, are we ready? I'll tell you, yes we are. Kuwait is very much ready for the G cloud, for the government cloud. We have all the ingredients available. We have the thought leadership. Kuwait have been a thought leadership in the region. We have ambitious users who are, I would say, love to try new things. And we have all the catalysts available. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.